She told me he was dangerous, that I deserved better, that my boyfriend, the man I thought I might marry, was toxic, selfish, and slowly unraveling me. What she didn't tell me was that while she was helping me heal, she was secretly dating him. For 6 months. 6 months. While I sat in her apartment crying. While she brewed chamomile tea and nodded like she understood. While she said I was brave for walking away. My name's Adam. And this is the story of how my best friend lit the match, then sat beside me and watched everything burn. It started the night Emily came over after the worst fight I'd ever had with Tyler. He'd shown up drunk to a work event, slurred through a conversation with my boss, made a joke about my daddy issues in front of half the room. I told him we needed space. He laughed in my face. I went home alone. I didn't call anyone, didn't post about it, just sat on the floor of my living room staring at the wall, trying to piece myself back together. Then the doorbell rang. It was Emily. She held up takeout and a bottle of wine and said, I had a feeling. No lecture, no questions, just quiet company. She let me fall apart without rushing to fix anything. I remember thinking, thank God for her. That was 2 months before I knew. 2 months before I learned that while I was deleting Tyler's number, she was saving his under a fake name. At first, she said all the right things. You're not crazy. You gave everything you had. He doesn't deserve your energy. I believed her. Emily was my rock. We met freshman year of college, both of us standing outside the same Philosophy 101 class wondering why we signed up for an 8 a.m. lecture. She was loud where I was quiet, chaotic where I was cautious. But she saw me. And when life got messy, she showed up. Every single time. So when she started warning me that Tyler was no good, I listened. She told me he was manipulative, that the way he twisted arguments made her nervous, that she didn't like how small I looked around him. Then she said something I didn't expect. I'm scared he'll hurt you. Not physically, she clarified. Emotionally. Slowly. He chips away at you, she said. And you don't even notice. That night, I slept on her couch. I remember waking up to the smell of pancakes and her singing off-key to some 2000s playlist. I remember thinking, this is what love feels like. But now I look back and wonder, was she already lying to me then? Was she texting him from the bathroom while I was crying into her throw pillows? Was the whole performance just a cover? The first real crack showed up about 4 months after that fight with Tyler. By then, I was doing better. I'd started therapy, joined a gym, took a promotion at work, still raw, but healing. And Emily was still there, still bringing wine on bad days, still tagging me in memes that made me laugh out loud, still saying how proud she was of me. Then one night, I saw her phone light up. We were at her place. Movie playing. I got up to grab snacks and glanced at her screen. It was just one line, from a number I didn't recognize. Last night was everything. Miss you already. And the name? S. Just the letter. She locked her phone fast. Too fast. Then smiled like nothing happened. I didn't say anything right away. Didn't want to pry. But a part of me, the part she told me to trust, felt something shift. So the next day, I asked, are you seeing someone? She paused. Just a beat too long. Then said, sort of. It's complicated. I asked if I knew him. She shook her head. No. Just a guy I met through work. That was the first lie. And I swallowed it whole. Because why would I question the one person who never left? Why would I think my best friend, the one who warned me about Tyler, who wiped my tears and told me I mattered, was hiding the one thing that could break me all over again? But I was wrong. And the second lie? That was coming next. And it would tear everything apart. 2 weeks after I saw the message from S, I caught her humming in the kitchen. Spatula in one hand, phone in the other. She didn't see me at first, but the way she smiled down at her screen? I'd never seen her smile like that. Not even with the guys she used to gush over. It was soft, familiar, the kind of smile you give someone who already knows your secrets. And my stomach dropped, because I'd seen that smile before. On my face. When I used to look at Tyler, I told myself I was being paranoid, that maybe she really had met someone, that it wasn't my business anyway. She wasn't obligated to share every detail of her love life. But something was off. We hadn't been seeing each other as often. Life had gotten busy, and part of me was still in that post-breakup fog, not fully present. But when we did hang out, I started noticing little things. She began canceling plans, started dressing differently, like she was trying harder, but in a quiet, subtle way. Perfume she never wore around me. Earrings that used to be too much for casual hangouts. She stopped asking how I felt about Tyler, stopped mentioning his name at all. And that silence was louder than anything she could have said. One night, I went over with a bottle of wine. No occasion, just nostalgia. We used to do this thing where we'd rewatch old episodes of The Office and try to guess what future version of us would be like. Married? Rich? Famous? That night, she was jittery, kept checking the time, said she had an early morning. I asked if she wanted me to leave. She didn't answer, just said, "Let's not do this tonight, okay?" I laughed. Do what? She looked at me, and there it was. The second lie, right in her eyes. Flat, careful, almost rehearsed. Nothing. I'm just tired. That's when I knew. Not what she was doing, not the details, but the truth of it. She was hiding something, and it involved Tyler. I didn't ask her directly. I told myself I was being dramatic, that I'd built this up in my head. That trauma messes with your sense of reality. But then came the nail in the coffin. Tyler's Spotify. We'd shared playlists when we were together. Dumb habit. One of those couple things. I thought I'd unfollowed all of them after the breakup. But one night, while scrolling through my desktop app, I noticed a familiar name under recently played. Tyler's Mix. Still linked. And recently active. I hovered over the playlist. The last played song. An obscure track from a band only Emily and I ever talked about. One she used to play the night I broke down on her couch. Then I remembered something Tyler once said. Only two people know about this band. You and Emily. My gut twisted. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was coincidence. But that same night, I opened my old Bluetooth list. The one with remembered devices from when I used to stay at Emily's. And there it was. Tyler's phone. Still cached. Last connected 2 days ago. At her apartment. I waited. Told myself maybe it was a glitch. Maybe someone else was using his account. But deep down, I already knew. He was there. With her. Listening to the same songs he used to play for me. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't cry either. Just sat on my bedroom floor, back against the wall, staring at the spot on the ceiling where the paint always peeled. She lied to me. Not once. Not twice. For 6 months. She'd watched me bleed and told me I was healing, while she was sleeping with the man who cut me open. The next morning, I drove. Didn't text. Didn't call. Just showed up. Emily opened the door in Tyler's hoodie. The same one I used to wear when we stayed in on rainy weekends. She didn't even try to hide it. Didn't look shocked. Didn't act surprised. She just froze. And I asked one question. How long? No theatrics. No raised voice. Just the weight of a truth I already knew. She opened her mouth, closed it, then finally whispered, "Since January." That was about 4 months. For months of dinners, advice, support. For months of pretending to be my friend while sleeping with the person who broke me. I stared at her, and all I could think was, she was the one who told me to leave him. She was the one who held my hand when I did. And now, she was the one who took my place. She told me it just happened, that they got close after the breakup, that it started with concern, long talks, shared worry, innocent check-ins. I didn't say anything, not because I had nothing to say, but because I didn't trust what would come out of my mouth if I opened it. So I just stood there, watching her, wearing his sweatshirt, standing in her apartment. The same one where she made me promise I'd never go back to him. And now I knew why. Not because he was dangerous, but because he was hers. I left without slamming the door. There's a kind of grief that burns so clean, it doesn't need theatrics. I drove until the city lights faded into farmland, just roads and sky and silence. And I finally let myself feel it. Not just betrayal, humiliation. I had sat on her couch and cried about a man who made me feel small. And she stroked my hair and said I deserved someone who made me feel seen, all while hiding the fact that she'd already replaced me in his life. And maybe that's what hit the hardest. Not the lie, not the affair, but the way she acted like my protector while becoming my replacement. 3 days passed. No texts, no calls. I thought maybe that was it. Maybe she'd do what cowards always do. Hide, wait for the dust to settle, then pretend none of it was personal. But on the 4th night, she showed up. At my apartment, unannounced. Same way she always had. Except this time, she wasn't holding takeout. She was holding an envelope. Her eyes were bloodshot. Hair pulled back like she hadn't slept in days. She didn't ask to come in. Just held the envelope out and said, "You need to read this. Then you can hate me in peace." I almost slammed the door. But something, call it masochism, call it curiosity, made me take it. She walked away without another word. And I sat on the floor and opened the envelope. Inside was a letter, handwritten, for pages. The first 3 were about Tyler. The last one was about me. And that's when everything shifted. She wrote that it wasn't supposed to happen. Said she never planned to fall for him. That it started as her trying to understand why he hurt me. She said it was curiosity at first. Then guilt. Then connection. But none of that mattered. I already knew all that. It was the last paragraph that wrecked me, because it wasn't about them. It was about me. She wrote, "You were the first person who ever made me feel seen. No competition. No second guessing. And I think a part of me got addicted to being your hero. So when you fell apart, I wanted to be the one who put you back together. But then I saw how much of you Tyler had broken, and I hated him for it. I told myself I was getting close to protect you. But really, I think I wanted to prove I could be the most important person in your life again. That I still mattered like I used to." She didn't just want him. She wanted what we had. She didn't steal Tyler. She hijacked my healing, took my pain and made it her plot, rewrote my recovery into her romance. She ended the letter with, "I don't expect forgiveness, but I do hope one day you see that it wasn't about betrayal. It was about my own brokenness pretending to be your savior." And that's when I realized something no one tells you about betrayal. Sometimes it's not just about what someone did to you. It's about how intimately they had to know you, to do it that well, to use the right words, touch the right wounds, say just enough to keep you looking the other way. She didn't just lie. She studied me, then used what she learned to hurt me in the deepest possible way. When someone stabs you in the back, you expect the pain to come from the blade. What I didn't expect was the echo, the slow unraveling of every friendship, every memory, every moment that now felt like a setup. Because once I knew about Emily and Tyler 6 months of lies, I started seeing everything differently. And the worst part? I wasn't the only one who had been fooled. The first person to call was James. He was part of our friend group, one of those quiet observers who didn't say much but never missed a thing. He didn't ask how I was. He already knew. He just said, "I figured it out a month ago." I just didn't want to believe it. I asked what gave it away. He said he caught them once, after a party, in the hallway. Too close. Too familiar. The kind of closeness you don't share with someone who just hurt your best friend. He said he confronted her gently, not accusing, and she laughed it off. "Don't be dramatic," she told him. Adam would lose his mind if he thought that. And James believed her. Until he didn't. After James, it was Mia. Then Corey. Then Layla. All with versions of the same story. Tiny red flags they'd ignored. Things they chalked up to Emily being Emily. One said she thought it was strange how Emily always changed the subject when Tyler came up. Another said she'd once seen a photo on Emily's phone, one that didn't look recent, but also didn't not look romantic. And then there was Ben. Ben told me he hadn't seen it coming. At all. "I honestly thought she was just being a good friend," he said. "I mean, she always sounded like she was on your side. She always looked worried when you talked about him." That part stung more than I expected, because it proved how good she was at the role. Even the people who watched us closest didn't see it until I said it out loud. I thought about confronting Tyler. Really thought about it. But then I remembered the last time we fought. Really fought. And I realized I didn't need anything from him anymore. No closure. No apology. No explanation. He was who he'd always been. Charming, careless, and allergic to accountability. He didn't betray me. Because betrayal implies broken trust, and by the end, I didn't trust him anyway. But Emily? She was the one who saw me at my lowest and made me believe I wasn't alone. And that's the betrayal that haunted me. 2 weeks passed. I stopped responding to messages. Deleted old photos. Unfollowed them both. But grief doesn't follow logic, and healing doesn't follow time. One night I came home and saw a box on my doorstep. No name. No return address. Inside was a hoodie. Mine. The one I loaned Tyler after a beach trip years ago. The one he accidentally never gave back. Tucked inside the pocket was a note. Emily's handwriting. "This doesn't belong to us anymore. I thought you should have it back." That line hit me hard. Us. She didn't say him. She said us. Like their betrayal was a shared thing. A single choice. But it wasn't. It was daily decisions. To lie. To pretend. To stand beside me while slowly replacing me. That hoodie didn't matter. The words didn't matter. Because there's no apology that makes up for betrayal wrapped in empathy. A few days later, Mia invited me to brunch. I almost said no. But something in me, the part that hadn't shut down completely, wanted to be around people who hadn't lied. She didn't mention Emily at first. Just asked how I was holding up. I said something like, "Still breathing," and she nodded like she understood. Then she said, "You know she's telling people it wasn't serious, right?" I blinked. "What?" "Emily," she said. "She's telling people it just happened. That it was messy, but not malicious." And that's when I realized something. She wasn't just rewriting my pain privately. She was rewriting it publicly. Trying to soften the story. Trying to make betrayal sound like circumstance. Trying to make herself the victim of complicated timing. That's the thing about people like her. They don't just lie to you. They lie for you. To control the narrative. To make themselves the wounded one, not the one who held the knife. And in that moment, sitting across from someone who did choose honesty, I decided I was done being quiet. Done protecting people who never protected me. Done pretending that closure comes from silence. They say the truth sets you free, but they don't tell you what it costs. They don't tell you it might take your history, your friend group, your sense of who you are, and burn it all down. And when the ashes settle, you're left standing in the wreckage of a story you thought was yours, now rewritten by someone else. So I did something I never thought I would. I told the truth, out loud, in public, and I didn't just tell it for me. I told it so Emily couldn't keep telling her version unchecked. It started with a post, just a few sentences. No names, no drama, just truth. Healing is hard when the person who hurt you keeps pretending they helped you heal. Don't let someone call it a mistake when it was 6 months of deception. Betrayal doesn't need violence to break you. Sometimes it just looks like a friend holding your hand while they're holding your ex behind your back. That's all I wrote. Didn't name her. Didn't name him. But everyone knew. Because truth has a way of echoing through the people who already suspected it. And within hours, the group chat lit up. One person messaged me privately. Finally, thank you for saying it. Another, she tried to tell me it was just a weird overlap. I knew it didn't add up. Even people I hadn't spoken to in months came forward. People who'd felt the shift, the tension, the strange distance, but hadn't known why. And now, they knew. The air changed. The silence broke. The power she had in the narrative slipped. Emily texted me that night. Just one line. I trusted you not to humiliate me. I stared at the screen for a long time. Didn't reply. Because that's what she never understood. I wasn't trying to humiliate her. I was trying to reclaim myself. And sometimes the truth does humiliate people, but only when they've spent so long hiding from it. I had to do that for every time I swallowed my own discomfort to protect her feelings. For every time I believed her over my own instincts. For every time she painted herself as my anchor, while secretly untying the rope. She didn't like that the truth made her look bad. But here's the thing. She wasn't the one who looked back at her best friend's tears and thought, now's a good time to sleep with his ex. That was her choice. And telling the truth? That was mine. The fallout came quickly. Not all at once, but in waves. James and Mia stopped inviting her to group events. Said it didn't feel right. Said trust didn't just bounce back. Corey blocked her. Said he didn't need that kind of manipulation in his life. Even Layla, who used to defend her like a sister, said, I believed you when you said you'd never do something like this. And now I don't know what to believe. Emily tried to do damage control. Quiet messages. Half apologies. One of them even showed me the screenshot. He's blowing this out of proportion. We weren't even together that long. He was already moving on. That hurt more than anything. Because it proved she never saw the depth of the wound. She only saw what threatened her image. She wasn't sorry for the betrayal. She was sorry people knew about it. Tyler, for his part, said nothing, which was probably the smartest thing he ever did. Because the moment he said a word, I would have buried him in the facts he pretended didn't exist. But I didn't need revenge. I didn't want it, either. Because at some point, healing became more important than proving I was right. And that point came quietly, not with fireworks or grand gestures, but in a moment that surprised me. A Tuesday morning, rain outside, coffee brewing, and I realized I hadn't thought about either of them in days. That's what healing looks like sometimes. Not a big comeback, just the quiet absence of pain. Just one moment where their names don't take up space in your chest anymore. Where you stop rewriting the past and start imagining a future that's yours, clean, clear, and wide open. It didn't end with a confrontation. No blowout. No shouting match. No dramatic parking lot moment where I got the last word. It ended the way real betrayals usually do. Quietly. With distance. With people slipping out of your life, not slamming the door, just not showing up anymore. And eventually, you stop waiting for them to. A month passed. Then two. Then the season changed, and I realized I hadn't thought about them in a while. Not in that aching, sharp way. Not with rage. Not with longing. Just quiet. It was the kind of healing no one claps for. No big milestones. No Instagram-worthy quote. Just small things. Sleeping through the night. Laughing at things that weren't loaded with memory. Standing in front of the mirror and not seeing what they left behind. One day, I walked by the old bar we used to meet at. The one where Emily first told me I was better off without Tyler. I didn't flinch. Didn't pause at the corner. Didn't feel that knot in my stomach that used to follow me around like a second heartbeat. That night, I went home and made dinner for myself, real dinner, not cereal or frozen pasta. And as I set the plate down, I caught myself smiling, not because life was perfect, but because I'd stopped pretending it ever would be. And that made everything feel lighter. Emily never texted again. Not after that one line. You didn't have to do that. I think she realized something I'd already accepted. That the part of me who needed her, the version of me who looked to her for comfort, for guidance, for validation, was gone. That guy doesn't live here anymore. And Tyler? He's a ghost now. Not the haunting kind. Just the forgettable kind. A lesson. A reminder. That charm without accountability is just manipulation dressed in nice cologne. I started dating again. Slowly. Carefully. Not because I needed to fill the space they left, but because I'd done the work to make sure I wasn't carrying their damage into someone else's life. One date didn't become two. Another one did. Then one night, someone asked about my last relationship. I told them the truth. That it ended messy. That someone I trusted turned out to be someone else behind the scenes. That it took time to remember who I was before it all. They didn't flinch. They just nodded and said, "Sounds like you found your way back." And in that moment, I realized. I had. There's this thing I read once. Some people come into your life as blessings. Others come as lessons. Emily was both. She was the friend who once saved me from drowning, and the one who later pushed my head under. But here's what I know now. I don't need to hate her to let her go. I just need to stop reaching for the hand that dropped mine. The hoodie she returned? I gave it away. Not out of spite, but because it didn't belong to me anymore. It belonged to a past version of myself, one who clung to things that hurt, just because they used to comfort. And that's not who I am now. Now, I've got peace. Not perfect peace, but earned peace. And that's better, because I didn't find it in someone else's arms. I built it in the wreckage they left behind. And that's where the story ends. Not with revenge, not with closure, but with me. Still standing, still honest, still here.